Hello everyone and welcome to this video of our Python tutorial series. In this video we will learn how to create functions. Till now we use multiple functions like print, input and range. And in this video we will learn how to create our own functions so that we can create functions which can perform some specific set of tasks. First of all, why do we need function? Why do we even have to create our own functions? We have already predefined functions. There are many functions in different Python libraries, but we will have to create our own functions when we want to perform some specific task which has not been performed yet or whose function is not yet created. And secondly, how does function work? Function works in a way that we specify a certain set of command, we write a certain block of code and give that block of code a name. And after that we can access that code with just using that name. So you might think that why do we have to create functions? Why not just use the complete code itself? Why do we have to assign a name? It is because there are times when we want to use that particular block of code multiple times. So to make our code more understandable, we use functions. Let's start with creating a basic function that will print hello. So to create a function, we will have to define the function and each function will have a function name. And how are functions defined? They are defined with the keyword def, D-E-F, which is a short version of define. So we use def along with function name. Let's say we give this function name hello, and we know that functions always have parentheses. So we give parentheses with hello. And then we have to write a block of code within that function. So we will have to give colon. And now I want to write a block of code which will be executed whenever the hello function will be called. And I want to print hello whenever this function hello is called. I have created a function called hello. So if I just call my function hello, just the way I used to call print, I can directly call hello. And let's check what output do we get. We got output as hello. What actually happening here is, at first this code is ignored by the compiler because it is not a direct command to the compiler. It is just a function definition. So it is ignored, and in the main code it encountered hello function. So the compiler will go looking for the function hello, and it will not found that function in its inbuilt libraries. So the compiler will look for the hello function in our code, and when the compiler will try to find the function hello in our code, it will encounter this function definition here and it will execute the command print hello. Let's modify this function now and make it even more advanced. Let's say I want to print a name with it. How can I do that? First of all, I will have to edit this print command saying hello plus name. And until now I do not have any reference to any name. I don't know what that name variable is. So the functions that we used previously like print, range, etc., they all used parameters, which are the values that we specify within these parentheses. So I'll just specify the parameter name here, that whatever will be the value passed in that function will be treated as name, and that name will be printed here. So if I put Jack here within these parentheses, what I should get is hello Jack. I got hello Jack here. Now these values that are passed within these parentheses are called as parameters or arguments. Parameters and arguments can be used interchangeably. They both mean the same, but with respect to the function definition, a parameter is the variable in which the values are being passed, which in this case here is name. And when this function is called with hello Jack, the argument for this function will become Jack. So the argument with respect to the function definition will be the value that are being passed within it, and parameter with respect to that function definition will be the name of the variable. Now there might be particular scenario in which we want to pass multiple values in our function. To resolve that, we can give multiple function parameters within a definition. Let's say first name and last name. So I can print accordingly, and while calling that function I will have to give exactly the number of arguments that are required according to the function definition. So I will have to pass another value while I call my function. So if I just run this, I got hello Jack Hawk. If we look at this particular scenario where we have to use first name and last name, there are two possibilities to store the first name and last name. Many companies use first name first and then last name, and other companies use last name first and then first name is specified. To resolve this, while I am calling my function, I can specifically mention that which value is to be given to which parameter. So if I just put L name equals to Jack and F name equals to Hawk, I will get hello Hawk Jack. So we can specifically assign values to certain parameters even if they are not in correct sequence. And if we are not assigning them with parameters, they will automatically be treated in the same sequence. Just like in our previous example, Jack was treated as F name and Hawk was treated as L name. In the same case of using first name and last name, there might be some people who prefer not to use their last name. So if we just remove our second argument and try to run this code with just first name, we will get an error saying hello function missing one required positional argument L name. It is clearly telling us that we will have to enter the value for L name. This scenario can be cured by using default parameters. What is default parameters? We know what parameters are, but we are already pre-assigning a default value to those parameters just in case if we do not reassign them again. How I can do that? Just by editing the function definition, and where I have specified parameters, I'll just assign it as empty string, which means that even if I have not given the second parameter here, the L name will be assigned as blank string. I should not receive this error now. It should be cured. Yes, I got hello Jack. Now let's comment our function calling. Let's create a new function named calc, and we are giving marks as parameter in this. I will define the function later. Let's just call this function and give marks. As you can see, our function is not doing anything. So if I just try to run it, expected an indented block. So if I am executing my code, I cannot leave the function definition empty. I have to write some code in it. So there is a keyword called as pass, which does nothing and is just used to avoid this error. Because in many cases we just have to define a function and we don't know how this functionality will work. So we just process with our other modules and other codes. So this function definition does not raise any error and we can smoothly process all the other code. That is when pass is used to define an empty function. Let's just say instead of just a single mark, I want to pass multiple values in it, not just a single parameter. How I can achieve it? The one way to do so is I'll just increase the number of parameters in our function definition. But there might be some cases where we do not know the definite amount of parameters that are required. One way to do so is to use default parameters and assign them with some useless values, but that will not be useful at all because we will still have to process all the parameters. I can just pass a list as my argument. Let's edit this function and just say I want to print all the values passed as parameter. So for I in marks, print I. My code works and it is printing 1, 2, 3, 4. But the only reason my code is working is because I only passed a single argument, which is I just passed a list containing 4 different elements. We cannot use this solution to our problem in real life coding. The method which I want to pass the parameters is just 1, 2, 3, 4. Not a list, but I have to pass different arguments. So if I just try to run this, I should get an error. Because our calc function takes one positional argument, but 4 were given. Only one argument is supported by calc function, but we gave 4. To solve this issue, we can use an asterisk sign in front of our parameter in our function definition. So I just put an asterisk in front of my marks and let's see if it still gives us an error. The error is resolved and we got the output just the way we wanted. So what actually happened here? What happens in the case of asterisk is, whenever we provide a asterisk with a parameter, it is treated as an arbitrary parameter. Arbitrary parameter means that we do not know what will be passed in this parameter. So we just put an asterisk sign in front of the parameter, and the asterisk parameter will take all the values which are passed as argument while function calling. And in return, the arbitrary parameter becomes a list. And even if I don't pass a single argument in our function calling, our code will still work, because in this case our arbitrary parameter marks will be an empty list. Now let's say my function actually does something instead of just printing the output. Let's take an example where we multiply each and every element which are passed as argument in our function calling. So what I can do is factor equals to 1, and if I just update my factor by multiplying it with each and every element present in marks, I should get the multiplication of all the elements present in marks. And if I just print factor and I pass 1, 2, 3, 4 in my function, what I should get is 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4, which is 24, and I got 24. Let's try and add 5, we should get 120, we got 120. There will be some cases where we do not want to print the values that we got from our function calculation. Instead of printing those values, we will be using those values in our different functions or in our different code. So printing those values won't work. But instead we will have to assign them in different variables so that they can be used in future. How to do that? Let's say I want to get the output of my calc function into result. So I can just use result equals to calc. Just the way that we used variable name with input function and we got the value entered by the user in our variable. So if I just run this code, my function print, I got output of 120, which is because of this command. And if I just print result, let's see what I get. I got 120 and none. So what is none? Because we have not assigned any none here and we have not encountered any none. What none in Python specifies is, it mentions that the value that we are trying to call is empty. Nothing is stored in it. But I want to get the output in my result variable. How to do this? There is another keyword called as return, which is used with function to return some value or values to our main code. Let's say I specify return factor, and if I run my code again, I got 120, 120. The first 120 is because of this print command, and the next 120 is because of this print command which uses result. This is pretty much the basics of creating a function and using them. There are multiple other things that can be performed with functions, but they are not used in majority, so I have not mentioned them in this video. Continue to explore and try to create different functions for different purposes. That will be all for this video, and if you found this video helpful, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your fellow learners. Thank you for watching. Until next time.